Yeah, so I do want to talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I didn't get a chance to, obviously, because we're covering the convention, but my message first is just to avoid these riots. I think that this guy, so if you're not familiar, this Kyle Rittenhouse person, he's a 17-year-old guy. He's from Illinois, I think. And he went over into Kenosha yesterday with an AR-15, and I guess he was with some other people, and they were there to protect businesses. And at some point, and I don't know the whole story, but he was attacked by the protesters. A few of them ran up on him, one with a skateboard, one with a Glock, and they tried to disarm him, essentially. And in self-defense, and it was self-defense because he got knocked on his ass. He fell down, he fell backward, and they were trying to strike him, lunge for his weapon. As he fell down, he shot 3 people, killed 2, 1 is injured. And I'll say, I think he was totally in the right in the sense that he was defending himself. I think he was within his rights to defend his life with his gun. And it's clear from the video that this is what happened. He was charged by the protesters, one with a gun. Well, you could see it in the pictures. One had a gun in hand. And he killed them in self-defense. And I think that's what happened. Here's what I'll say, though. He put himself in that situation. He went up to Kenosha with a group of people with a gun. And added to that, not only did he put himself in a dangerous situation with the firearm, but also he crossed state lines to do it. And he's not even a legal adult. And legally, those two things complicate the situation a lot. But in any case, even if that wasn't the case, he goes into that situation with an AR-15, and I have told people countless times on this show, this is what happens when you put yourself in a situation like that. Either you end up dead because they kill you, like Kyle Rittenhouse, he found himself in that situation. Either they would have shot him or beat him to death, and if they got that AR-15, they would have turned it on him and killed him, or shot him with the handgun, or beat him to death with the skateboard, or just punted him. So he would have either ended up dead in that situation, or, and this is even in the best case scenario, if you're attacked, you'll defend your life successfully and you'll get away without harm, but potentially your whole life could be ruined because of the courts. And who knows? Maybe he'll get off. I hope he does. I hope that the courts decide that he's not guilty, right? I hope that the courts drop the charges even. But now his fate is in the hands of the courts, which are biased against him, and they're biased against you. Now his fate is in the hands of the media or the jurors who are biased against him and biased against you. And so, people might say, oh, okay, well, he'll walk. He'll be fine. Maybe so. Maybe he will. Some people are saying the case against him isn't strong. Yeah, that's probably true. But here's the thing. The courts are biased. And we saw that with the Proud Boys. We saw that with the Rise Above movement. We saw that, I think, even with James Fields, if you want to know the truth, in Charlottesville. It happens all the time, and it's not fair, and it's not legal, but it happens because judges, just like anybody else, are political appointees or, elected. So if he gets off and he's not in jail and he's not dead, then he would have gotten really, 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 really lucky. And that would be great, but that should not be replicated because you might not be so lucky. And guess what? If you wind up in that situation and you die, people make a big deal out of it for a week, and then just like all the other martyrs, forgotten. If you get thrown in jail, people make a big deal out of it for a day. Tucker Carlson will talk about it. It'll be on social media. And then within a week, it'll be forgotten, except for a small minority of people. And that's just the way it is. I'm not telling you that that's great or that's how it should be. That is the way it is. So for all these people that see this story and they say, we got to be like him, he's a hero, we need to meet force with force. Yeah, that's great until you wind up in that situation and you end up, like I said, either dead or in jail forever. And when that happens, all these people that are there, riled up and cheering you on, talking about another civil war, they will be nowhere to be found. They'll not pay your legal bills. They will not go to your funeral. They'll tweet about you maybe if you're lucky, but you really got to keep that in mind. What are you really doing? And this guy, hopefully he walks, but let's say he doesn't. He's going to jail for the rest of his life ruined, if the charges stick. He dies, his life is over. Is it worth it? You go out there to what? Defend a gas station in a state that you don't even live in? You go out there to what? Get in a scrum with random protesters? There is a way to make your life count. For whatever reason, people gravitate towards the violent martyrdom, and who knows? Maybe there will be a time for that. Maybe, and I think it's, in some ways, maybe even likely, there may be a situation in the country where things unravel, and it may call for that. But that time is not now, because all you're doing is you're throwing yourself into the machine, you're going to get ground to dust, and that's just going to be the end of you. What you should do for now with these riots is steer clear. Don't go near them. Stay in your house, stay in your neighborhood, watch it on the stream. You're better off. Save your money. If you're concerned, take your family and move somewhere else. If you can handle it, stay where you are. But, you know, throwing yourself out into the machine, so what? You die on some street corner because some protester, some faggot bashes your head open with a skateboard, some white faggot liberal with a bunch of blacks, they kick your head in on a street corner. That's a really noble martyrdom. Not. That's a waste. You know, and there's a fine line between this, like, bravery stuff and just outright waste and stupidity. And it's a young guy like that. It's an adolescent. Adolescents and young men, I think in particular, are susceptible to this. They hear this kind of talk from people. It's very irresponsible on social media. They hear this kind of talk about, you're a hero, we have to do something, now's the time. And young men in particular are susceptible to getting all fired up about that, and they go out and they make life-changing, life-ruining, life-altering mistakes that you don't recover from. I'm just doing my job, my responsibility for your benefit. Okay, I'm looking out for your well-being by telling you that. Got a lot of assholes out there that are going to tell you, you know, this guy's a hero, and it's the time is now, and you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, we need to go out there and meet these guys in the streets. That's not responsible. I would not be doing my duty if I told you that. Anybody could do that. Anybody could, you know, and it's people like that that do it behind the desk and with protection and security and all that. And so you got to look out for yourself for now. We're not in a situation where that does us any favors. You know, this guy getting railroaded by the justice system doesn't do him any favors. It doesn't do us any favors, honestly. So, and I have to say that. All that being said, don't get me wrong. All that being said, I think if you're looking at just the video, he's not guilty of murder. He didn't go out there and murder people. He went out there nominally, you know, to defend property. I think probably there was some element of excitement or adventure. You know, that's what these people do, because it wasn't his neighborhood. He lives in Illinois, but he went up there to check it out and probably, you know, thought it was a thrill or something, which is what young people do. And that's why it's my responsibility to warn you. But he went up there, and I'm sure he wasn't targeting anybody, anything like that. There's no evidence of that. When he was attacked. He was attacked with lethal force by multiple people with weapons, and he defended his life. He's not guilty of anything. But we have to distinguish between like what ought to be and what is. What ought to be is that people like that would never be charged in the first place. People look at it, an investigation be conducted, and they'd say, yeah, no charges here. This was an intentional murder, right? No charges. That's what ought to be. You know, people would look at the Proud Boys and say the Proud Boys were just defending themselves against Antifa. They should be thrown in jail forever. That's what ought to be. They look at Charlottesville, and they'd say in Charlottesville, the police conspired with the government and Antifa to drive the right-wing protesters into the crowd of Antifa, and there was violence on both sides and self-defense, but that's not what happens. We live in the real world, where the system's corrupt, and the media's out to get you, and the jurors are biased, and the judges are out to get you, and they don't care about what happened. They don't care about the evidence. They don't care about any of that. They're political, and they want to kill you, okay? They want you dead or in jail or raped or trans or whatever. That's how it is, and that's what has happened. And all these other so-called political prisoners, you know, how many of you even know the names of the Proud Boys, Ram guys, whoever else? You don't. And I don't want to blame you. I'm not trying to shame you. Oh, you don't know the names. You're not, you know, pure enough. I'm not saying that. Point being is, everybody likes to say, oh, well, we'll remember you or whatever, but the political reality is that's just not how it goes. We all know that. Even someone like Cannon Hinnant, as much as I hate to say it, you know, that was a cycle in the media, and we talk about him a lot on the show and what it represents, and You know, that is part of a lot of different subjects we talk on the show. But what good does that do for his family? And likewise, with all these wannabe martyrs who go out in these situations, ultimately, what does that do for you? You know? So it's just something you want to think about. People are very selfish. And, you know, some people rush into these situations for glory. You're not going to get glory. People rush into that for legacy. You don't get a legacy. Sadly, that is not the way the world works today. And I'm sorry. But I'm here to give people advice based on how the world is, not how it isn't. And that's going to save your life, potentially. I know a lot of people it already has. So I have to tell you that. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on. But I just have to tell you that. I hate what I'm seeing right now. It makes my blood boil when I see these animals, and that's what they are. And you know what I mean. They're animals in these cities setting fires and shooting, and even the ones that aren't doing that, even the disgusting pig women that go into these protests with no clothes on, twerking and cussing, the whole scene. I'm talking about the whole scene, all of it, on social media, in the riots. You know how much contempt I have for that stuff, how angry it makes me. But in order to set things right, and in order I know we're Christian, we don't like revenge, but I'll just say, to make things right, we cannot be emotional about these things or passionate. We have to be dispassionate. We have to be impersonal. We have to be calculated. We can't be hasty or impulsive, because again, the system is so arrayed against us. We have to be better than them. We have to be smarter than them. We have to be more disciplined than them. We have to be more calculated than them, because we're going up against the Death Star, okay? And that's the way it is. That's if you want to help the movement, you want to make things right, I'm telling you how to do it. You got to grow up. You got to grow up and get a grip and control yourself. And I know it's hard to watch, but get a grip. We're going to do something about it. We're doing something about it, but there's a way to do it. And the way not to do it is just throw yourself into the crossfire and die on a street corner for nothing and be forgotten, right? So I'm doing because I got people that watch this show, and they're sons and daughters, mostly sons, daughters too, but the people who watch the show is somebody's son. That guy was somebody's son, and potentially a father if you're lucky, right? And that's where we want people to be, sons and future fathers. And I wouldn't be fulfilling my responsibility to my audience if I told everybody, you worthless, expendable, nothing, you got to throw yourselves into the gears of the machine, or you're not a patriot. I can't do that. It's not right. That's what people used to do for years in the dissident right, and it's that's not responsible. And I've seen the carnage. And I'll just tell you, and this is the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on. A lot of what I speak is from experience. I've seen this happen. There was guy in Charlottesville named James Dodson who he killed himself after Charlottesville. Nothing even happened to him. He didn't get arrested. He didn't get, as far as I know, he didn't get arrested. He didn't get attacked or beaten up or killed or anything. But after Charlottesville, he got doxxed. And some sort of unsavory personal details came out about him, and the left and the media made his life a living hell. This was a brilliant guy, an engineer. His mission in life was to bring affordable electricity to, I think, Arkansas is where he lived. He's an engineer. That was his dream in life, was to make his community be able to have affordable and cheap energy. And he ended up killing himself not even because of the legal system or anything else. Anybody remember his name? I remember his name. But does anybody know about that? Is there posters of him? Is Tucker Carlson talking about him on his show? No. And that's really sad. But that's also just the way it is. And I don't want to see more people go down like that. I know a lot of people, it could have been the same story. A lot of my friends, even me, it could have been the same story. And it could be you. So, anyway. But, so I hope you understand that's not coming from a place of, that's not, when I tell you to be careful, some people say, oh, you're cucking, you're weak, you're whatever. No. It's smart. It's smart. And that's the way you have to be. It's disciplined. And any fool can run into battle and get their head chopped off. I'm not going to let the groypers do that. I won't let it happen to our people here. Now, I don't know if I can help it. I'm not going to encourage it. So anyway. I get that all the time. You know, you're a cuck. So you should just do nothing, right? It's like, no, we're not doing nothing. But there's a big difference between, you know, going out and wasting your life, wasting your potential, your freedom, your everything, and doing something, even if only a little bit, is going to be productive for the movement and have your life, right? So, and that's what we want, and that's what we see. Big things are happening behind the scenes, which I can't even tell you about, and I'm sorry I can't, but that's the way it is. And if people only knew the potential, if people could only see, like, and not everybody has that, but if people could only see what's taking place, you know, you'd be forward-thinking and optimistic and want to salvage yourself for that, for the future, right? For the opportunities and moments ahead. Everybody will have an opportunity to do their part, whatever it is. And we want, you know, ultimately, we're going to expend ourselves. I'm expending myself, you know? But you have to do it in a way that's going to advance the cause and it's going to be worthwhile, I think is the way to think about it. Okay.